Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today I'm going to explain why the narcissist is a phantom and you are always alone. There's a movie I remember watching numerous times when I was in high school, and it came out, I think, in the very early 2000s, I believe. It was called Fight Club. If you've ever seen Fight Club, you'd at least have to admit it's a very interesting movie. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it in some ways because it's vulgar, it's got some bad parts in it. It's definitely not a morally virtuous movie, but if it's something that's not going to bother you, it'd be interesting to watch. In that movie, the main character calls himself Jack, the narrator, and you don't really know his name, it doesn't disclose it. But basically, he meets a guy named Tyler Durden, and they hit it off on a plane one day. And the main character's got a lot of issues. He's an insomniac, and there are other things that I'll get to in a minute that he's got to deal with. But he meets this guy, Tyler Durden, and Tyler is basically courageous. He's everything that the narrator wants to be. He's a go-getter. He's cool. He just has a lot going on in his life. He's sort of like one of those really cool people to hang out with that's, as I said, courageous. So, as it goes through the movie, they have all sort of interactions. They have a fight scene with each other out of nowhere where Tyler decides that they should have a fight in the middle of a parking lot because they've never been in a fight, and how much can you know about yourself if you haven't been in a fight? So they just duke it out right there in the parking lot. And they do it several different times. They kind of liked it. They liked the sensation, so they do it again. A couple people start to watch them over the course of time, and they join in, and they want to be the next fight. And a few more join in, a few more join in. Next thing you know, they have this underground fighting club. That's why the movie's called Fight Club. But Tyler Durden and the main character, they have a lot of different interactions. They live together in a really old, decrepit house. It's gross, doesn't have plumbing, nothing works, that sort of thing. But they're just two bachelors kind of living on the edge of humanity. They get into some chaos. They have a whole team together at some point in time. This whole group that is the Fight Club also joins a group or forms a group called Project Mayhem, I think. And anyway, they do all sorts of really crazy things. How much can they get away with? But Tyler and the main character have these interactions. They're drinking beers together one day. They fight together. They have all the different scenes in the Fight Club, underground Fight Club itself, all the scenes in the house. There's a woman in there, I think her name's Margaret Singer, and she comes in and she ends up interacting with both of them in a way I'm not going to describe. But anyway, there's a really close connection this whole time between the two guys. And I'm just going to, if you want to watch the movie, then stop this and go do it. But I'll let you in on what happens, because I have to do it for the video. So at the end, things are spinning out of control. And the main character is wondering, who is this Tyler Durden guy? How did he enter my life? This is insanity. And the big catch, the hook in the whole movie, is that basically Tyler Durden never existed. He was pretty much an alter ego of the main character. He was everything he wanted to be. And so in effect, as he looked back on the time that they had throughout the movie together, he realized everything Tyler was doing, he was actually the one doing it. He was fighting himself. He was drinking beers with himself. He was starting the Fight Club by himself. He was doing the Project Mayhem by himself. And he became this ruler, this kind of godlike status to so many men across the area and even the country. And all the while, it was him doing it, not Tyler. So it's this, when it's revealed at the end, it's this huge, like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And they drop little hints along the way if you're smart enough to pick it up, but it's kind of hard to pick it up on like a first time through. And I thought to myself, as cool as that movie was when I was younger, and as big as that surprise ending is, if you think about it, the narcissistic relationship is just like that. And I really thought to myself this, and this hit me out of nowhere one day a while back, And it made me view the whole relationship in a different way when I was with the narcissist. Because you see, you were alone the entire time. Because that person is a vapor. They're dust. They do not exist. They're just like Tyler Durden. They're not your alter ego, but they were never actually there. Was there a person there physically with you? Yes, there was. Did that person have any substance? No. Any core identity? No. Were they actually there with you, emotionally attached with you? No, they weren't. One scene stands out in particular in that movie to me is where early on, after they have their first fight, the narrator and Tyler Durden sit there and they have beers, and they're just drinking them. They're all beaten up, and they're like, "We should really do this again sometime." And one of them hands the other one the beer, and he takes a sip. At the end, when it's revealed that they're the same person, the main character he has that sip, and he looks over and says, "We should really do this again sometime." And he drops the beer, and it shatters onto the ground because there was nobody there. It was just him the whole time. That is exactly what it's like to be in a relationship with a narcissist. Every drive that you took, short drive, long drive, you were the only person in that car. It was just you. Every dinner you went to with the narcissist, you thought there were two of you ordering. No, there was one. You were the only one there. You ate your meal alone. You ordered alone. You talked to yourself for all intents and purposes during that time. You thought somebody was there, but they weren't. Maybe they took you to the hospital one time for something, a surgery or something. You were the only one going through it. You thought somebody was there for emotional, moral support. No. Think again. You were alone. Maybe you had to recover from that surgery, and you thought someone was helping you. Nope. All of these different events, every little thing you did with the narcissist becomes that way because they were a vapor. There's nothing to them. They don't, as I said, have a core identity. There is absolutely no central character to them. They just project back onto you whatever it is they know you want to see, and they accumulate little bits and pieces of the various people that they date throughout the course of time. They're a little bit of everybody, but they don't have their own substance. And more importantly, that person is completely incapable of connection. They don't trust anybody because they don't trust themselves. They don't have genuine, authentic love for anybody because they don't have love for themselves in a real way. They're self-absorbed, but they don't love themselves in a good, virtuous way. They're never all in because they're always seeing other people. They don't trust you, and they think that in order to get out ahead of you, they have to cheat on you or be talking to other people, so that if you ever did that to them, they've got one up, and they can say, "Been doing that the whole time. Beat you to it." Their whole life is about pulling one over on everybody that they meet because they don't trust anybody. And maybe sometimes they'll even tell you, "It's not that I don't trust you, it's that I don't trust myself." And that is true. They don't trust themselves because they know that they are doing all kinds of debauchery, 9 kinds of wickedness. And so since they're doing it, they assume that you must be doing it. They think everybody operates the way that they do. So they cheat because they assume you're cheating. They don't trust because they assume you don't trust. There's so many different things that they do. And so they're never into a relationship. They have one foot in and one foot out the entire time. And it's palpable. And you can feel it. You know that entire time in the relationship that they are not invested. Maybe you even pled with the narcissist, or you found yourself praying, "Please help this person to be as invested as I am. Just help them to meet me halfway," because you know they don't. Maybe your whole thing with that person was to say, "You are not all in. You've got to be all in on the relationship." And they'd say, yeah, I choose to be all in. A week later, they're not. Because they never were. Not from the first second you met them and to the very end of the relationship and everywhere in between. They were never in. And this is why I'm saying you were all alone. The entire time, every second of every day spent with that person basically was spent by yourself. but it was worse than being spent by yourself. Because if you go and spend time alone, intentionally, that's valuable time. Whether you're taking a walk, a drive, you're writing, you're reading, whatever it is you're doing, you're fishing, that is super valuable time because that is time that you can spend talking to God. It's time you can spend doing something you enjoy. It's time you spend in peace. When you're with a narcissist, you are with somebody, but you're alone. You are not self-isolated, you are just plain isolated from that person. And nothing feels worse than being next to a person who's supposed to love you and be your life's your life partner or your spouse or whatever you want to say, and they're not there. And you know it, you feel that they're not there. There is no deep connection. You don't ever get that deep, satisfying connection with a narcissist. So it's just like Tyler Durden. And you can look back on that relationship now and think about what things you went through. When you went to dinner, when you went on trips, when you hung out with each other, maybe you guys had kids from, both separately or both joined, I don't know. But every second was actually alone. When you don't have somebody who is invested in you, even remotely close to the way you're invested in them, it's a one-way relationship. And every narcissistic relationship is a one-way relationship where you give and give and give and give. And what do? They take and take and take and take. They're never satisfied. There's no amount you can ever give them that will satisfy them. There's nothing they'll be appreciative of. They don't appreciate anyone or anything. They're never all in. They're talking to other people behind your back while you're not looking or while you're away, and you never know what they're doing. And frankly, you wouldn't even want to know at this point what all they were into. It would just make you want to vomit. If any of us really knew the whole story of what the narcissist did behind our back, we would just not be able to handle it. It's sick. These people are disgusting. But maybe this helps somebody, because when you come to realize you fell in love or you came to be with a vapor, someone who's not really there. The narcissist didn't actually exist in the first place because they're not an authentic person. And I've told you this a million times. They have demonic attachment. They've been taken over. That is a shell. That's a hollow, empty shell of a person. Some people call them meat suits, empty meat suits. There's a lot of things you call them, or robots, because they are. There isn't, in essence, a core identity to them. They have what others will call a fractured soul. There's a million ways you can put this, but that is a totally incomplete human being. They have given up on themselves at a young age, at some point in time. I have videos about how narcissists become narcissists, but at some point in an early age and as they grow into adulthood, they just give up on themselves completely and they give themselves over to the powers of darkness. So they become hollow, empty, shallow. And when they're in a relationship with you, there is no genuine love, satisfaction. There's no reciprocity. There's no stability. There's none of this stuff because they are not an authentic person and they were never really there. This is radical acceptance, and I know this is tough for some of us, but it's also liberating because you realize, what am I missing? Who am I really missing if you're still missing the narcissist? I'm not. But if you are, I get it. I understand. Just realize you're not missing a real person. You're missing a vapor. You're missing someone who presented a mask to you that was never real, and the person never had any substance. And the person doesn't have any substance now. They have no character. They are, right now as we speak, they are probably abusing whoever they're with, or they're spitting back to them whatever that person wants to see. Inauthentic as it can possibly be. So yeah, it's kind of like that. You look back and just as the main character here hands Tyler Durden that beer, says we should do this again sometime, and it just slips and falls to the ground, because there's no one there to catch it. That's what the narcissistic relationship is like. You are always all alone because they are a vapor. It's a really interesting way to look at this. So this video is a little bit on the shorter side, but I think it gets the point across. And the takeaway again is, what are you missing? What are you looking back on? You spent all those days or weeks or months or even years by yourself. But not by yourself in a good way, isolated, alone, feeling more alone than you could ever feel by yourself. That's what the narcissist makes you feel. Because they were never there, they're not an authentic person, and you were indeed by yourself with a vapor the entire time. So just realize when you get rid of that narcissist, you are way less alone now by yourself than you were then. And being alone with yourself is a good thing, especially if you can enjoy it, if you can get to a place where you like to be alone. Man, that's pretty satisfying. But you were alone in the worst possible way with that vapor, that non-existent human being thing, whatever it is, called the narcissist. So anyway, check that movie out if you have the stomach for it, or if you just want to see what I'm talking about. But just keep that in mind. Don't miss that narcissist, because that was not a real person. You were more alone then than you are now. Anyway, I hope this speaks to somebody. If it does, drop comments below. And as always, thanks for listening. I'll be back at you soon with another one. Until then, God bless.